Joylan Mom. Hello, everyone.
Oh no! What has he done this time? I just.
Oh no! We can't even.
Oh,
can't even talk
my
about
God!
It. It's so funny. It's so funny.
No.
Let's put it this way: his allyship received proper context. I think that's the easiest way to put it. But a quick search on Google will help you out. Actually, Artie, do it while we're talking because I want to see your reaction.
Will you find it on Google? It was deleted.
Sorry, Twitter. Yeah, but it'll be screenshot. Do a Twitter search. Hello, everyone.
Let me retweet it right now because I've obviously got it bookmarked.
Oh, I'm seeing something.
Here we go. I'm quoting it for you.
I see.
Yes.
Is he
exactly.
married?
He is indeed. Well, anyway, perfectly normal. As Alan Partridge used to say, I don't fancy them. I just find them confusing. Sorry, that was about a different. Yes.
There's a lot to say about this, actually, I think.
Okay.
There's so much. I mean, where to even start, right? How old is Mom? He's in his 50s, right?
Yeah.
Faye, how old is Faye?
Sean Faye. Yeah, 30s, he looks like maybe? He's about in his 30s. Yeah.
Right. So, and there's something really quite Uncle Monty-ish about this, I think.
Something what-ish? What-ish?
Uncle Monty from
Uncle Monty.
Boys, I think. Or is it? Well, it's. Uncle Monty was actually he
was quite sweet, Uncle Monty, in the end, wasn't he?
No, Uncle Monty was from the film, wasn't it? Which is
with Nail and I.
Yes, with Nail and I.
Yeah, he was quite sweet in the end, wasn't he?
Yes, he was quite sweet. But my point is this. It's this horrible resisting the temptation to slide into your DMs for the moment, at least. It's this, but I might not be able to restrain myself in future. It's really, there's something extremely creepy about it, I think. And he's much older.
Yeah.
Plus, did he not learn anything at all from the fox killing incident? Did he not think, hang on, when I'm about to tweet, I've got to think, is this something that's going to come back and bite? Is this something that I shouldn't be tweeting?
Yeah.
Obviously, that didn't work. But mainly, I think the problem we've got here is that he's showing that he really understands that Faye is not a woman.
Yeah.
Because this would be completely inappropriate and dreadful if it was towards somebody like, I don't know, Susie Green, like a woman on his side.
Yeah.
If he would suddenly say, resisting the temptation to slide into your DMs, for the moment. But at any point, I might be there with my pictures or, whatever he was thinking of DMing. It shows more than anything that he's completely aware that there's a big difference.
True. That's so true. It's so performative, too. It reminds me of, I remember I saw there was like a debate in a hall between like a trans-identified male and someone else. And then during the Q&A, someone gets up and they said, first of all, I just want to say, you're so beautiful to the trans-identified male. And it's like, that's an insane thing to say in an intellectual debate. But they're just performing how, like, I can't see that you're an obvious man in a wig. I can't see it, And that's what he's doing. He's being like, I can't see that you're obviously a guy.
No, I think that might be part of it, but I think there's more. He knows that for Faye, this will not be taken as an insult. This will be taken as an absolute sign of validation. This will be welcome.
Yeah.
This will be welcome. And so the whole thing, I mean, and of course, with absolutely no what this means for women, for what this sort of behavior means for women, because women online can't stand this sort of behavior. Imagine, Graham, if you were saying, if I had a new profile picture and you'd be like, hey, resisting the temptation to slide into your DMs. Yeah. Everyone would be like, yeah, that's completely fucking inappropriate. Because it would be. Because,
any form of kind of thirstiness on Twitter is not a good idea, you know. I mean, but like, what we have here with not in this particular case. I'm certainly not saying this about Joylan and Sean, but in general, the allyship and the of straight men and trans-identified women, both sets who hate
also straight men.
Yeah, who are also straight men, is basically it's a giant circle jerk. It's a circle jerk. It's literally a circle jerk. I mean, like, I was thinking about OnlyFans the other day, and I was thinking I can actually see a future where OnlyFans is just all men masturbating to men, right? Sliding into each other's DMs, saying exactly what they want women to say, which is just pornified bullshit, you know. I can see that future. I mean, it's terrifying, but I can see that future, you know, a giant circle jerk.
I thought the whole thing was so.
I can imagine a lot of women wouldn't mind that future. They'd be like, go up and.
I know that's the brilliant thing about it. You know, that was always. Sorry, Helen, to interrupt. I'll be very quick, but that was always what I thought porn would be. And every time I say it, Helen looks disappointed, and rightly so. But I just thought porn would keep men off the streets. But maybe OnlyFans will do it. They can all make a load of money. They can wank off to each other, slide into each other's DMs, and no one else will be bothered, you know?
Yeah. I think it's I like what Lady Love is saying here. Let them have each other and leave us out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, you know? I also wonder, and again, I'm not saying this about Joylan, I'm saying this about trans allies in general, whether the kind of insistence that they're women, that trans-identified males are women, comes a little bit from kind of gay fear. Like they actually kind of fancy them, like Alan Partridge. They don't fancy them; they just find them confusing. But they cannot admit to that, because that would make them either gay or bisexual, and that's not how they see themselves. So I wonder whether there is a little bit of no, they're women. Whether that comes from an element of self-protection.
Can we get rid of Jews fucking bombed?
Jews, sure.
I mean, that's what they call themselves here. But I think I just
don't worry, that's fine. Okay, but do you know what I mean? I wonder whether there's something inside themselves that they're a bit embarrassed.
There's some homophobia there. I think.
A bit homophobic.
I certainly think there's homophobia.
Yes,
as part of it there.
You have to you have to see a little bit of homophobia in insisting that a male is a woman. And when you see Sean interviewed on Newsnight, there's no doubt that this is a male. You know, I mean, the Photoshop job is impressive, but really now with FaceApp, you know, anyone can be anything they want. You know.
Yeah. I think Fionn in the comments. Hello.
Hi, Fionn.
Saying also something interesting. You know, isn't he married? Like, I mean, that's
I don't know what the beer in the bucket means.
But that in itself is appalling, isn't it? He's married, and there he is, sort of suggesting to a supposed woman that at any point he'd like to. And honestly, the word slide into your DMs. It's so creepy.
Yeah,
it's so creepy.
But listen, let's move on, because I don't want to focus on him completely. Let's move it out to the wider issue. I mean, you know, it was obviously oh no, I don't. Do I want to go there? No, I won't. It's too early. I was going to talk about the shooting.
I don't.
It's too early to
honestly,
talk about.
It's too early, and it's. You know, it's a
so
horrible thing, and there are plenty of people thinking about it and talking about it.
I will say
we can add anything.
Absolutely, but the one thing that jumped out at me that I just want to mention very quickly that Harry Miller pointed out is that Harry Miller has a mark against his name for hate speech because he tweeted a limerick about trans people. Harry Miller has that mark against him would prevent him from ever getting a weapon of any sort. Yet this man had a history of violent misogyny online, and they still gave him a shotgun. They still gave him a shotgun license.
That is an extremely shocking point.
Yeah,
that's an incredibly shocking point, isn't it?
You know, yeah, and it just goes to show misogyny is the hate crime that just does not matter to people. People just don't care because it's so much a part of I think every man's makeup in some way. I mean, I'm not a believer in the kind of critical race theory aspect of, oh, there's an original sin, you know, but I do think that society is so misogynistic, so instinctively, reflexively misogynistic, that men can't help picking it up, you know. Look at.
And I don't think people don't even want to deal with it. People are like, "Oh, this is a problem," but it's in our nature, so it's not even something to address.
It's
kind of this attitude.
And domestic is often used, isn't it? Because it can be sort of pretended that this is a very, very isolated. It's domestic. It's between them. It's in their family. It's it's not going to spill over. It's simply there. They haven't managed to work out a proper relationship. It's their fault, I think.
Yeah.
There's a lot of projection going on when people say that. They're saying, "Oh, this is like my private issues. I don't want to air mine, so I don't want to hear yours," kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it was deeply sad, and as always, the thing I hate about these people most is that they need to work up the courage to kill themselves. That's what it is. They have to kill. They have to do terrible things to work up the courage to kill themselves. And it's the most cowardly and terrible thing. But anyway, let's. I don't want to.
I will say one thing that opens up a discussion about misogyny. That there are people saying, look, there's a direct correlation between terrorism and violent acts and misogyny. Misogyny needs to be discussed. Already, somebody, Ophelia Benson pointed out, somebody was pulling the whole, it's too soon to talk about this card. The families need time. You're right, but we can't talk about it yet. Like, no, actually, now is exactly the fucking time to talk about it. Yeah. And the invisibility of it is you can see it everywhere. Like I saw in Ireland, they've started noticing that the Irish Times is publishing people like Stella O'Malley and letters from gender critical women, and of course all the men. All the witch finders are onto it, and they're trying to shut down their speech. And they don't see themselves. They see themselves as being different, as being different from the people who threw women into the Magdalen laundries. But they're not. It is a consistent line through Irish history that there are these men, and they just dress up different. Sometimes they wear collars, but now they're failed comedians. I mean, it's something that I'm going to be writing about later on today. But Jenny, who wrote this letter that the failed comedian picked up, Jenny is actually she wrote under her married name. She's the woman I spoke to very early on in all this.
Yeah, I remember.
A
superb interview, very, very hard hitting interview.
It's one of the most shocking. I think it's probably the most shocking interview I ever did. It's this woman was basically held hostage by this guy because she was trying to protect her children, and he was fucking forcing her to do all these things he didn't want to sexually. And Jenny has very good reason to be frightened and to be wanting to warn other women about autogynephiles. She knows it's we, as we always say, some autogynephiles are absolutely fine, but there is a heavy strain of misogyny and basic kind of perverted kind of control fixation. I don't know what you would call it, but it's Artie, you're always better at describing the problems with autogynephilia. But
I'd call it like a narcissistic mental collapse or something,
Yeah. So she has a good reason to warn other women about the dangers of it, because she kind of fell into it gently. He used to just cross-dress near her, but then the cross-dressing took on, he was wearing lingerie and all this type of stuff, forcing her to be involved in what she found very, very degrading acts, and of course the Irish the kind of Trinity, I think the Trinity student guide or something like that, Trinity student paper, David O'Doherty, the whimsical comedian, all these men, they just doing what men have always done in Ireland, which is they're trying to silence uppity women. And they're trying to silence, even worse than that, they're trying to silence victims of abuse. So shame on you, David O'Doherty and the Trinity bloke.
I want to tell these men, I want them to understand that they feel like they're being righteous, but don't they understand? So did the priests,
Yeah, very good point. Yeah.
They could see on the outside what the villains, they could see what the villains were doing. And they could see that the villains were doing bad acts, but were they able to mentally put themselves in the minds of those villains and see how they felt? because then they'd realize that's how they feel themselves right now. You know, when you're being the bad guy, you think you're being the good guy. You have to do a mental check, you know, and they're not doing that mental check to see if they're the good guys. Yeah. You know, they're acting entirely on their emotional self-righteousness, and they're not doing any critical thinking to go, wait a minute, my emotions might be tricking me into thinking I'm doing good when I'm actually abusing women. Yeah.
Exactly. It's this going with the gut thing all the time. It's like the gut.
But it's also quite interesting because it's a phrase that is used far more on that side than this side, when they will say this is just like the fight for gay rights. So there is a massive understanding that something that has happened before, you can see it sort of happening again, but they always position themselves self-servingly on the side that they believe, you know, should have won the righteous side.
It is far more likely. It is far more likely that they would have been cheering on Section 28. It is far more, because they are sheep. You know, anyone who looks at the guidance given to Scottish schools, like Benjamin Buttergasp, who was on TV saying that it was a good thing that 4-year-olds can keep secrets from their parents. And Judge Rinder, he was on Judge Rinder's talk show, and Judge Rinder was like that. What the fuck are you doing? It's like you're setting back gay rights for years, because
this is children's rights too. No child should be keeping a 4-year-old child. The school should not be keeping a child's secrets from their parents ever.
Yeah, this guy is using the phrase "gay children." He's using the phrase "gay children" and "trans children." These are 4-year-old kids. You know, their sexuality is not even on the fucking radar.
No, but at least there's no such thing as gay children, but there's like likely proto-gay children. At least we have evidence. At least we can say there's evidence. You can see a child behaving a certain way and say there's a strong likelihood that person's going to be gay. There is no evidence that you can tell that someone's going to want to be a trans-identified person as an adult.
But Artie, what about Susie Green's son? Susie Green played with girls' toys and dressed up in girls' clothes. So, you know, put on hormones very, very early on, and then castrated at 16. So, you know.
Jesus would have wanted.
Sorry.
Oh God, I thought we had Philip Pullman in here for a second. Bloody hell.
I did too. I keep looking. I'm like, he's after us.
I doubt he's come in. He's not going to get his hands dirty. He's not going to put his toe in the water after he messed up.
No, he could be a secret fan. Maybe he's come around and he's secretly watching us.
No, he doesn't know what's going on. He did that thing where he complained about a writer getting a pile-on, and as soon as he got pushback from the woke arseholes online, he just immediately wrote this huge letter apologizing for everything he could. Just a kind of machine gun apology, you know, that takes care of everything.
I came across this was quite interesting about pile-ons. I came across yesterday an account which is set up, suggesting that they're set up in order to, these are the words, I think, counter the damage done by organized GC pile-ons, because of course we are so organized because we're led by the men who are highly organized.
No, I understand.
So I thought,
of course you do. You're our king and leader.
Yes. Where's your crown? I want a crown next week.
I have something. I'm sure of something.
Anyway, so
Santa hat will do. You've still got that Santa hat around.
So this and they've cleverly positioned themselves as not saying, come and pile on any GC woman so that they can't get done for targeted harassment. So what they've got there is an account that can call sort of trans supporters, because we are far more numerous than these women, but we are spread far and wide. So this way, you know, we can call them in with the account and to give love.
Americans, basically.
Just love the people getting piled on. Give love, right? So I thought, let me try this out. So I quote tweeted this account, and they obviously quote tweeted me back, but they blocked me, so I couldn't really see. Yeah. But I would like to say that the people did come to that call, but reader, there was no love. There was no love there.
You know what? Isn't that a sign?
Go on, Helen.
It's a sign. Oh, sorry. Go on, Helen. Yes.
No, it was just entirely predictable, like abuse and absurd claims of being led by men and right-wing Christian evangelists. I mean, somebody even said, Why do you think that that you have never heard of this issue until 2017, 2018?
Oh my God.
That's when the right-wing Christian evangelist came in and led you and groomed you. And I'm like, I've literally been talking about this since 2011 because I was alerted to it by left-wing female sort of feminist journalists and radical feminists. And this person is just it's the extreme arrogance, I think, in saying, like, they genuinely believe that women just cannot think for themselves.
Yeah.
That women haven't looked around and thought, no, yeah, actually, I can see that this is not going great, that there's a problem here. You've been groomed, you've been led, it's a cult, just the same sort of words over and over and over again, which basically comes down to women are not really to be trusted. You can't trust them, they can't trust themselves.
Yes.
And so anyway, so there was no love. Just want to make that point.
Yeah, but also, can I just say, Artie, before you come in, the other thing that is just, I mean, kind of mind-blowing about that charge that it's led by men. They did it at the Marion Miller rally. There was like 3 men spoke, 10 women spoke, and of course they did what they always do: is they ignored the women, you know. But like, but the charge that it's led by men, when all these people are worshipping these blokes in wigs, and you know who I mean when I say that. I'm not talking about transsexuals. I'm talking about blokes with like Charlotte Clymer. There's a brilliant video that Magdalen Berns shared of Charlotte Clymer being interviewed by Channel 4, and Clymer has earrings and lipstick but nothing else, right? And I have a theory about that. I think he was on holiday in England, and he just didn't bother dressing up because he wasn't back in the UK, because he wasn't in America. He didn't bother. So he got the call from Channel 4. Oh, can we interview about being a trans woman?
Like, oh, crap.
Earrings.
Yeah.
Quick,
oh, there's a boots over there. They got earrings at boots. They got lipstick.
Exactly.
Boots.
They got everything. How much are these? 10 quid. But so then he runs and he does the interview, and the interview is genuinely one of the funniest things. I hope we should put it in the link.
This is the Channel 4 interview?
Yeah. It's
the
so
legendary.
Funny.
Oh my
it's
God.
So funny. And, you know, I mean, it almost doesn't need Magdalen providing commentary because it's so funny in itself, but she does a great job, as always, you know.
Oh, Magdalen takes that apart? I got to watch that.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. It's great. But, like, you know, sorry, how did I get there? What point was I trying to make? Oh, yeah. No, well,
it's Saturday. I don't know.
I'm saying that's Charlotte Clymer, right, who is considered a big, you know, who's basically, you know, I mean, is a joke of a fucking person. Like their avatar is them morphed with Reese Witherspoon, right? So it looks more Reese than him. But if you saw him on the street, you fucking know it wasn't Reese Witherspoon. I'll tell you that.
Oh
you know.
God.
So these people are fully in control of the trans movement. Rachel McKinnon, another one. Rachel McKinnon, whose boyfriend is a paedophile. Another one whose boyfriend is a paedophile. Challoner, whose boyfriend is a paedophile. Another one whose boyfriend is a paedophile. These are your leaders. These are the leaders of your movement.
What do you call them? The central outliers. I love that term.
Central outliers, yeah.
Oh my God.
Anyway,
the amount of times that I've just alone in my apartment ranting to myself in anger and been like, they're central outliers. That's a term.
Really? Wow.
What do you mean by central outliers?
Oh.
We will often say that we'll look at someone like Amy Challoner, and they will say, "Oh, you're just taking one bad."
Oh,
apple.
I see. Oh, that.
And it's
yes.
Oh no, they were in Stonewall for years, and have probably
Yeah.
advised the Scottish government on their recent advice on children. You know,
Yeah.
Like their advice has probably gone through Stonewall to the Scottish government. So these are central outliers. Rachel McKinnon, complete cheat. You know. But a very, very vocal person about trans people in sports. Going out with a paedophile, another one, you know.
Yeah.
So
It's such an important point because we're talking about we can't win over hearts and minds with critical argument. This is something we figured out. People are not, they're thinking tribally, they're thinking emotionally. So we have to appeal to people's sense of their own emotional where they're standing. And these people are saying, if you pointed out a few bad apples in the gay community and said that all gay people were like this, that's what they're seeing this as. So the central outliers point negates that. You're not saying, oh, I'm taking a few random people who happen to be trans who are bad and pointing out that they've got issues. I'm not pulling at the outliers. I'm grabbing the central people. If you say these are the 10 most famous trans people, and then say out of the 10 most famous trans people, how many of them are causing serious problems?
Well, here's one here that someone has pointed out. I saw this the other day. Morgan Oger responding to the mother of a raped girl, accusing her of weaponizing trauma and being a bad parent. This is like a very, very central person in Canadian politics. You know,
Morgan O'Shea is a deeply dangerous person. He's someone I'm honestly afraid to engage with online, but who infuriates me all the time. I almost think it's not worth it to engage with him because he targets anyone. He's targeting Aaron, that Canadian Aaron, not American Aaron.
He's targeting 3 trans people at the moment.
Yeah.
You know, 3 or 4
trans people. He targets anyone. He's a dangerous, vicious monster. This is a man who has fathered children, who's unambiguously a middle-aged autogynephile, who's just lost his mind, who thinks he will scorch the planet to prove to the world that he's female. And he calls himself female, you know. It's just appalling misogynist, deeply dangerous person. It's scary.
It is. Too many of these people. Really it's people in central positions. You know, that's what's frightening. People who are
he's a consultant to the UN.
Oh, that's
right. Middle-aged autogynephile who's lost his mind and decided that he must literally be female. And the UN's like, this is interesting. This sounds like a new frontier in rights. Not a new frontier in like mental health disorders. No.
Yeah, it is. Oh God, well, look,
but a lot of narcissists do manage to get into positions of power. It's almost, in some ways, it's in some structures, it's kind of a prerequisite because you have to be able to walk over other people in order to get there. You do have to have this extraordinary amount, an almost delusional level of self-belief in your own abilities. But unfortunately, because of it works. I mean, it can absolutely work.
I think that's part of the reason why I'm so bothered by this issue. I'm not a woman, but I am a gay person, and I'm profoundly angry about this issue. Part of it is my secret bitterness towards narcissists. I hate narcissists. Narcissism is a trait that men get away with so much for being narcissists. They climb the corporate ladder in offices and everyone lets them get away with it. They destroy people's lives. They manipulate and use people in personal relationships. I hate narcissists and I hate that they get away with it. My goal in life is to stop narcissists getting away with it. And this is, I think, part of my drive in this.
I think that's fair. I mean, I think you're right to a large extent. Unfortunately, a lot of the people in power are narcissists. They're not necessarily, it's like I've said from many politicians, any politician who, unfortunately, you have to, in order to succeed in politics, you almost have to have the sort of personality that you simply want power. It's not that you necessarily want to help. You might have started out wanting to help people, but the people who get to the top are unfortunately the sort of people that really should not be your politician.
Well,
because it's more about power.
Exactly right.
That's what Gore Vidal
people don't realize. Everyone gives them the benefit of the doubt. They don't understand that oftentimes narcissists don't care about the things that we care about. And we're offering them all of this courtesy and benefit of the doubt that they're just taking. I hate it.
Yeah. Gore Vidal said anyone who wants to become president should automatically be disqualified from doing so. Which is a great quote.
A wonderful quote.
Yeah, but
anyway, so I'm reading John Boyne's new novel. Is anyone else?
No.
What's that?
Why would I read his? No, he threw me to the wolves because he was scared. He was right.
Oh, well, that's interesting because it's called The Echo Chamber.
Yeah,
and it is about it is all about sort of toxic social media.
Yeah.
But what is interesting is that there is a character, a receptionist in the solicitor's office called Nadia. And Nadia is a trans woman. And Nadia used to be Aiden because Nadia is Aiden backwards.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's interesting. God,
I don't think that I don't think that this is a coincidence.
Wow.
No. If you remember, John Boyne successfully sued
I do, which is why this is not a coincidence.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Ireland is kind of heating up at the moment because all these guys, as I say earlier, with them trying to silence Jenny, all these guys are beginning to expose themselves, and the arguments are appearing in the Irish Times, and the arguments are strong. The arguments are strong, and they come from women who are obviously who've obviously thought very carefully about this issue. So these guys, all they can do really is try and shut them down. It can't work forever. It can work for a while. They'll intimidate the Irish Times, but they'll. Oh, that was a good one. That's a good job. Hey,
Gary Glitter. Look at Gary Glitter in the green room of secrets.
What else can we talk about? There was something else.
Can I just go back for a minute? So, Helen, you were talking about people are saying, there's mobs of GC women on Twitter. That's interesting. I think they're panicking because I've seen lately something that I hadn't seen in previous years, I don't think, which is that when someone does say something appalling, like Philip Pullman or Neil Gaiman, the sheer numbers of gender critical people responding negatively are a sight to behold.
Yes.
People are being ratioed in the favor of GCs. And I think there are more sort of TRAs than GCs in the world, but I think they're getting a little tired. Whereas the GCs are highly energized. So you're seeing when somebody says, like when Tank Girl, whatever her name is, Lori Perry, says something stupid, she just gets like,
Lori Petty.
Yeah.
I don't remember names. I don't know.
It's a good slip. That's a perfect slip. Yeah, go on.
It's just like everybody attacks, and they're just like, I don't mean attacks, but I mean criticizes rightfully. And our numbers are bigger than their numbers right now in the comments, which wasn't the case for the longest time. If you said something gender critical on Twitter, you got the pile on from all the the anime avatars. But now I'm seeing far more people with suffragette colors in their avatars. And
also people with their own faces. I mean, one of the brilliant things recently has been all the gay men who've started speaking up. I mean, I'm seeing again, and also they're being like one guy today. I just saw him say, he just said about to do some turfing on Facebook. I'm scared. I'm pretty scared, and that is the kind of. That's a huge step for people to take, to admit to their social circles, to their family, friends.
Oh, it's huge. I'm still only halfway there. I'm just sort of taking baby steps out of my.
I think the cat is out of the bag, Artie. I really do.
Yeah, but I was saying about how
quiet.
But it's something about when you don't admit it. At least you don't have to talk about it. Everybody knows that I'm Artie Morty, but it's like I said, it was like Jodie Foster. We all know she's a lesbian, but before she said she was a lesbian, you couldn't ask her questions about it, and there's a safety there.
Yes. Okay, so you think this is you and the people who are close to you?
Yes.
Everyone
they all know, but it's like as long as we don't talk about it, and I think they're perfectly happy and I am too, because quite frankly, if I do have to talk, if I'm out as gender critical to my friends, I'm never going to shut up about it. I'm going to be like, you guys.
Yeah, actually, that is true. That is true. I mean, the thing is,
it turns out that people can get really fucking bored of you.
I know. This is the problem. Like with people I did, anyone who knows that I'm gender critical, I will never shut up because I'm losing my mind about all this stuff. So it's almost an exercise in discipline to say there are these people we don't talk about this issue with, and I have to force myself to be like. Yes. Don't talk about Charles Clymer or whatever,
But there is something there is more to say, I think, on what you were saying, that there are more GC people, because now actually you do have people almost quite rightly saying, look, there's this dreadful pile-on. There's this dreadful pile-on. You've created this dreadful pile-on, and sometimes there is a big pile-on. But then I think, but it's reasonable. Women, so many women, actually, they do have the right to say Edinburgh rape crisis, this is bad. What you're doing here is bad. We're allowed to say it's bad. And the pile-on comes from loads and loads of women saying, this is really bad. And this idea that women should be silenced. I saw something yesterday. Somebody was having a go at me, and I genuinely, you know, she was saying, like, I'm a survivor, and I suspect she works there, and I've been having a load of abuse. And I think, you know what, this is possibly true. She's like, emails and phone calls, and I'm thinking, you know, how people term abuse now. My guess is that most people are not rude, but people are angry.
Yes.
And I suspect that there has actually been, you know, like, loads and loads of, but women are allowed to. Women, this is absolutely fundamental. The stuff that they had said, the stuff that was said about weaponizing trauma and, you know, bigots and being, it was bad. It was bad. And women are angry. Women are allowed to push back. Women are allowed to say.
Let me remind people, Helen. I just want to add to what you were saying by reminding people why people are angry, right? The reason people are angry about Myrtle Wada, I've got the list here. He has no GRC, so still legally male. He lied about his sex to secure a job at Forth Valley Rape Crisis Centre. He objected to an amendment. Now, this is the worst one for me. He objected to an amendment allowing rape victims to choose the sex of the medical clinician examining them. In fact, I think that's why he left the Greens.
Oh my God, examining them.
I didn't know that. This isn't
even just a counselor, getting an examination. You can't even, you've just been traumatized. Oh my God. It's
pursuing political ambitions.
Upsetting.
He took a place on an SNP all-women shortlist. He has demonstrated a shocking lack of knowledge regarding legislation that affects women's services, a sector in which he's worked for over a decade. He is, quote, disappointed by the single-sex provisions allowed for in the Equality Act 2010 and finds them discriminatory against cross-dressing men. He sided with serial litigant and period-obsessed paedophile Jonathan Yaniv against a group of migrant women. He seems to think it is suitable to discuss whether rape victims experience orgasm. I think women have a perfect right to be as fucking angry as they get with whoever works there. Get rid of, fire that man, you know?
Yeah.
Or have him
Can I just say, well, you know, when Twitter was dominated by anime avatars, before they all went into retreat as we are winning, they were vicious. Those were real pile-ons because they would say, you're ugly. They call you a cunt. You know, they send you death threats. Women on the GC side are righteously angry, but they are not personally attacking for the most part.
They don't,
you know.
They certainly don't. In fact,
the restraint and grace that I'm seeing in women who have every right to just completely throw the gloves off is something to behold. Like Philip Pullman, Neil Gaiman, the pushback they got was angry, but well within the bounds of angry debates and not personal.
Absolutely.
For the most part.
Fact,
you know,
this is what I was going for. This is that, you know, but when you look at the responses and what people are saying, I mean, I think we touched on this in last week's mess, or maybe the extra mess, that there is a lot of deliberate trolling of women. A lot of the point is absolutely designed to make women angry. This idea that everyone understands that men are not running the so-called gender critical movement. You know, this has been a woman-led grassroots movement. You know, you've got Women's Place UK, Fair Play for Women. These are all grassroots movements led by women. So everyone knows, everyone is aware, everyone knows that there's no right-wing Christian evangelistic money coming here. In fact, you know, as was it Tish found out that
Stonewall.
This bookmarked, that about Stonewall taking the money from the Arcus Foundation, which gives money to Christian evangelistic groups. So everyone knows. The whole purpose of it is to make women angry. Like half of the problem that I've had on Twitter is that people come at me because they want to see me get angry, and because I don't necessarily get angry, I just continue to ask the question. It's infuriating for people because the point is to try and make me angry. But women who care about this erosion of their rights, they're not trolling. They don't want to be here. They don't want to be fighting for this. Their purpose is not to try and piss people off and make them angry. They want what they want. We want this tiny number of sex-based rights so we can get on and live our life in a sort of equal society, in a society that is patriarchal, that we need to be able to live an equal life, and then we can just get on with it.
Well,
that's all we want.
There's another aspect to it. There's a couple of aspects to it. I think you're absolutely, you're absolutely right about the different priorities that people have when they engage in this debate. But there's two other aspects to it. One is that the cry that we are funded by right-wing billionaires, they only say that because they know it's not true. If we really were funded, then we would be proud of it. So whenever they say it. Do you know what I mean? We'd be like, yeah, we got loads of money and we can, but they know that it insults left-wing women to say it. You're right. Yes. Trolling, of course. Sorry. That's the short version of how to say that. But the other thing that I think is important to remember is because of the media's disgraceful absence from this debate. I mean, Kath Viner is someone else who should lose her job. The Guardian has been a disgrace on this, but because the BBC as well, the BBC, I am now on the edge of supporting a campaign to remove the license fee, because I do not want my money going to tell kids on CBeebies, because this is true, that a straight couple were actually a pair of lesbians. I don't want my money going to that, and I won't pay for it. So I'm on the edge there. But the absence of debate, it has created a kind of, let's call it the shitty news. And the shitty news is made up of a million, let's say, newsreaders on Twitter who are saying things like, you're funded by the far right. LGB Alliance are a hate group. And this vacuum turns that shitty news into the news.
Yeah, it's awful.
If the BBC covered this properly, then it would actually be a discussion. There wouldn't be any of these pile-ons on either side. We would be able to talk about this in a normal way. But the BBC has been captured and has been taken over by people who believe that sex is assigned at birth.
All I keep doing is picturing this from the vantage point of 10 years in the future, looking back at the disaster. The longer they go without addressing this issue, the more of a catastrophe they're making, and the more Hollywood films there are going to be about this. It's so fascinating when you try to picture. We know there's going to be a correction back to normal. We know this is sort of like a bubble, like a rational bubble of idiocy. We know this, and we know that the world just can't go on pretending sex doesn't exist. It's going to have to figure this shit out. The BBC is going to have to figure out that this isn't gay rights 2.0, and they were just too chicken shit to address the problem, and then they kept doubling down instead of figuring out that there's a problem here, and everyone's doing this, and that bubble is going to burst. The house is going to bust. And oh my God, it's just amazing.
Isn't it tiring?
Doubling down is a massive issue, isn't it? There's jobs on the line, there's careers on the line, there's corporations on the line, there's a lot of money on the line.
Yeah. Well, the BBC.
It's a difficult one. There are people who are going to absolutely do the very, very best they can to not see a backtrack happen. They're going to be, it's their whole careers, their life.
Rats. Yeah. They're going to be cornered rats. They're going to be terrified and cornered, and they're going to lash out. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how long they can go on ignoring the actual issues. They never bring them up. They never speak about them. They never address them. They can't. One thing they used to say, no one is transing kids. And now we have Benjamin Buttergasp saying that 4-year-olds should be allowed to keep secrets from their parents. Imagine a 4-year-old thinking, "Will I tell my parents about this?" I mean, it's mind blowing. And I think that the brilliant thing about Benjamin Buttergasp is the original Buttergasp that he did. Do you remember? It was actually because someone said, no one is born in the wrong body. And he went,
on the day. It was the day before the official proclamation. The town criers were dispensed to say, no one is born in the wrong body.
Yeah. Mermaids changed the thing. So poor old Benjamin Butterworth, he was doing what he thought he was supposed to do, which was he was pretending that he found it shocking, and now he's pretending that he's not pretending. I do think he's just very stupid. But now he just thinks that saying that 4-year-olds can keep secrets from their parents is going to play great, is going to play great. When in fact, I genuinely think that this advice in Scottish schools is potentially a massive problem for Nicola Sturgeon. I think she signed up to it. I think she signed up to it without really thinking that, the usual rainbow, everything's rainbow is colored.
Yeah, it's all fine. It's rainbow. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
So she's gonna bite your ass so hard. Yeah.
Well,
I think, yes. I think you're right. I think is it Turvin Gentleman did a good thread where he delved into some of the. I think it's the same thing. It's the Scottish government advice to parents. I'm just seeing if I can find the tweet. And it's fact checking basically, and it's like why support for trans youth matters. So this is the Scottish government supporting transgender pupils in schools, and there's some really dreadful stats.
Is this Trish's thread that she did?
I was looking at Turvin Gentleman's thread.
Right. Okay, sorry.
So it says for attempted suicide, trans youth with supportive parents, 4% of attempted suicides. Trans youth with unsupportive parents, a full 57%. Now, this is very much weaponizing
lunacy,
suicide,
and it's not fucking parents. Children don't attempt suicide ever.
But he's looked into it. The statistics cited are from a 2012 study into female to male trans adults in Ontario. The 433 respondents is misleading. There only 205 FTM were used in the study, and none of the respondents were under 16. So none of these were kids.
Right. So children don't attempt suicide. It goes back to that stupid movie, Butterfly, or whatever it was called.
Yeah, I think it was called Butterfly.
And then, it's apparently the opening scene is like a 9-year-old trying to kill himself because his parents won't affirm his pronouns. Like, that never happens ever on the planet Earth. Children don't attempt suicide. They don't understand what life and death is, and they don't have existential crises. We're not a bunch of little Franz Kafkas being like, I can't take it anymore. That doesn't happen to 9-year-olds. It's just fucking insane. Yeah.
This is an absolutely appalling attempt at emotionally blackmailing parents into affirming kids by telling them. It's the same line, isn't it? Would you rather have a dead son or a live daughter or a trans daughter? It's appalling. I was absolutely
largely gay
disgusted.
People's lives they're playing with. These are straight men who cross-dress fetishistically, playing with proto-gay children's lives so that they can get away with it. It's so upsetting, And obviously, some of these very feminine boys and masculine girls their dysphoria will persist, and that's great. But largely no. But there's something. Fionn said something wonderful in the comments. She was talking about how, people making fun of the excesses of trans. And homophobia comes up, and I'm really seeing so much of this. We've been talking for a long time about how there's going to be a backlash.
Can we try and find that one by Fionn?
Sure, it's up there somewhere. But the backlash against lesbians and gays is here. My friend is in Budapest right now, and there's a referendum being set up by that horrible oppressive government by Orban.
Oh yeah.
And it's not just, it's about curbing the excesses of pediatric trans, but it's also about shutting down any discussion of homosexuality, Yeah. I don't think there's any problem with teaching kids that some families have 2 dads or 2 moms, but they're banning that alongside, pediatric transition.
Well, this is the reason.
Always going to be one of the problems of hitching the T onto the LGB, wasn't it? It was always going to be the problem.
It's why the LGB Alliance made that statement that they didn't want to be associated with every sexuality that they can think of, some of which were represented at an event that the police were endorsing. There was an age play flag. It's grim. And so gay people, the ones I follow on Twitter anyway, gay people do not want to be associated with bestiality and fucking pedophilia. Get that through your heads, like the LGBT Alliance actually got attacked for conflating the two, supposedly conflating the two, when in fact that was what they were trying to do. They were trying to say, no, we are distinct from this. We are not this, you know.
No,
and of course, the usual suspects weighed in on them. But here's the thing that I think is really dangerous. It's not just the wackos on Twitter who are worried here. It's people like Judge Rinder and Benjamin Butterworth calmly discussing the idea of 4-year-olds keeping secrets from their parents. You know, in future years, our own domestic version of Orban will be able to point to people like them and say, look, they sat there while it was happening. They endorsed it. They helped it along. They tried to get kids onto a medical pathway. Do you know what the terrible thing about it is? He'd be right. He'd be right. It would be a very hard thing to argue against, certainly amongst the kind of mainstream gay voices. The gay people we know that are GC and stuff, they are the ones fighting against that. But they will also suffer, you know, because they'll be thrown in with this disgusting bathwater. You know?
And it just goes to show how amazing the first wave of gay rights was, because we did have so many problems. First and foremost being the infiltration of pedophilia in the gay rights movement, and how we had to take very decisive action. We had to literally go through a roster and be like, pedophile out, pedophile out, pedophile out, you know, because that was the thing. Not that gay people are more likely to be pedophiles, but in the gay rights movement, the activism, people who were particularly energized to argue for sexual liberation, oftentimes it was because they were motivated to break down barriers around children. You know, there was also the fact that just if you were completely alienated from society, you weren't allowed to get married, you weren't allowed to have kids, couldn't have a job, you were in these ghettoized, completely marginalized communities where sort of the rules of civilization kind of broke down. There was that factor too. But, you know, we got our shit together, and we were dealing with a horrible crisis with AIDS at the same time, and the gay rights movement was just an extraordinary machine. It accomplished so much. I have profound admiration for all that it accomplished. It's so incredible. But yeah, they managed to get rid of, to address the demons and the skeletons in their own closet. They managed to do that while they were dealing with basically, you know, a horrible holocaust of death. An entire generation of gay men is lost to extraordinary stuff. And I'm just not seeing any of that happening with this new generation of activism. I'm not seeing responsibility. I'm not seeing
discrimination. Like to discriminate in a good way, to actually say this is good and this is not so good. We should actually be doing this and we shouldn't be doing this. You don't see any of it.
All the lefty activists need to get rid of Peter Tatchell. Peter Tatchell is he's clearly a pedophilia advocate, has been for years. He keeps lying and weaseling his way out of it, but they just uncovered that letter that he wrote to, what was it? Did you see this? Remember?
Oh yeah, I'm always talking about this letter. The one where he's talking about
letter he wrote to a newspaper.
Then they didn't publish it, and he was like, thankfully for him, they didn't publish it, because then he didn't have to make up an excuse and pretend it never happened. But now they've uncovered it and exposed it and said, this is what he was saying, you know?
Yeah.
Brilliant. He's just a slimy liar and a pedophilia advocate, and I won't stand for it. I can't stand gay men this older generation of gay activists who still have this idea in their minds that, you know, pedophilia is somehow connected to gay rights. I can't stand it. Yeah.
Well, and also the fact that he keeps banging on about schools. It's like, no. Again, sit this one out, Peter. This is not one for you to be involved in at all. You fucked up. You don't get to talk about kids and rights ever again. Peter's biggest problem was that he was praising the Sambia tribe before people had Wikipedia. But now we do have Wikipedia. And if you look up the Sambia tribe on Wikipedia, you'll quickly see why it is so frightening that Peter Tatchell has anything to do with children's education on any subject. You know,
it's an amazing thing, isn't it? That we can find so many egregious examples of things said by the other side, which seem to be sort of brushed under the carpet or whitewashed away, or nobody really cares. And the scrutiny on the sort of the GC side, the scrutiny of women, if saying things, and there's all this guilt by association. Oh my God, look,
likes of tweets.
Yeah, likes. Actually, I mean, look at J.K. Rowling. A like of a tweet or a retweet. And the scrutiny and the backlash and the vilification is so huge. And yet on the other side, there's often you could find like a sea, like a swamp of unpleasantness, of violent threats, of misogynistic death threats, of advocating for all sorts of really quite awful things. Or, you know, you click on someone's profile and there they are with their cock out. You know? And it's just, and there is just so much of it. And the skew is incredible. And which makes me so angry then sometimes when I think about it, when I just think of the skew and then I think of this, fault on both sides, or, we must have balance in a debate. And it's just so infuriating. Because you can paint women as horrible bigots in a way that society will believe. Society will absolutely believe this. You know, just a tiny infringement of or something on the part of a woman is blown up and is just dreadful. Whereas, you know, like so some guys can get away with way more egregious stuff. Like Mom, he's going to get away with this. It's done.
People don't even notice that he's violated some serious boundaries. Like they don't even see it. It's so crazy.
Yeah. No, but you know, I found this out quite early in the thing. I remember, you know, in my innocent days when I was starting on the roller coaster, you know, the GC roller coaster. You know, I did an interview with Derek Jensen. I thought, brilliant. This will clear a lot of stuff up. This will explain all the problems. And it was great. And I was very happy with the interview. It was a really great interview. Although he put a frog at the start of it, which always gives me a fright. It's just a terrible sound. It's like, what the fuck did you choose that for? But oh no, sorry, Derek. I love the interview. But like but it was a great interview. It covered all the topics. It made my position entirely clear. So of course, Pink News pulled out of it. Graham Linehan calls trans rights activists Nazis. You know, that was what because it was the only thing they could find. It was the only thing they could find that was you know, and it wasn't even true. You know, they you know, I wasn't doing that at all, of course. But you know, they knew that the noise from that would blare out so loud that it would cover everything else I was saying, you know.
But mercifully, I mean, I don't think Pink News is just a little echo chamber for idiots, you know. They're just selling.
Well, the problem with Pink News is that they're funded by Google. Like they have Google is pumping a lot of money into. So they are like
they did once. I don't think Google's going to make that mistake again, though. I mean, now that Pink News has been red flagged by Wikipedia, that's like a big you're fake news, you know.
Yeah. Did you see, by the way, Pink News' hilarious coverage of the Star Wars guy?
I certainly didn't.
It was like, I'm going to do an impression of it. It was like trans woman bravely stands up to a bigoted old man, right? And the trans woman is like this in the shot,
and he's like,
and the old man's here. The old man's here, right? And it's like, and the old man's like literally looking up at him like this, you know. And the guy is like, he looks like he's eaten a few old men. And Pink News described this as a brave. It's just this fucking burly bloke towering over him.
But Pink News is purely trolling. I mean, they don't believe what they're selling. They don't believe it at all. I mean, they know. I think some of them are. No, it's trolling. It's trolling. It's the same. It's the same as what we were saying about, you know, your right-wing Christian evangelist. They know that's not true. Pink News knows what half of the stuff they say isn't true, but they need money. Like we were saying, you know, people have their careers sunk into this.
Yeah. It reminds me a bit of this. I always compare everything to Scientology. They remind me of the Squirrel Busters, who are these maniac Scientologists who like harass and attack.
Oh Jesus, I know them.
Ex-Scientologists. They wear these helmets with cameras on them, and they're trying to catch you doing something bad and goad you and doing that. And they're just lunatics. And that reminds me of Pink News. Like they really drank the Kool-Aid and they say insane things and they goad people and they're just nuts. And you can't figure out what their motives are. Is this purely for money? Do they actually believe this insanity because it's so crazy? It's hard to say. You know,
married to the editor is married to a trustee on Mermaids, I think.
That's right. Who's the surgeon, I believe. So
oh, really? That's interesting. You know, when Mermaid,
I don't know.
When Mermaids finally gets, like, Mermaids is due so long overdue for the scandal. I mean, the scandal it's actually there. It's just that no one wants to report on it. I mean, shame on the BBC again for never reporting on the fact that Susie Green does not have a good excuse for what she did to her kid. She does not have a good excuse. The TED Talk, if you look at a TED Talk, you would expect her best argument to be up there, right? But again, please, Jen, our wonderful producer, please place the link to Susie Green's TED Talk in the comments, because it is breathtaking. It is I know I've said it before, but I just can't believe that this isn't more of a scandal. It's literally the kid played with toys, girls' toys. The dad didn't like it because he didn't want to have a boy who played with girls' toys. So the mum decided that he was actually a girl. It is the clearest confession, I think, of abuse, that I've ever heard. I mean,
all these children who are being trans, all the famous ones, it's always like the one who was on the cover of National Geographic, and the mom, she keeps telling the story everywhere. She's told it in magazines. She's told it in video about how she's a Christian conservative. She would not tolerate homosexuality in her household, and she's found a cure in transing her child. She's just been outright. She's almost selling it to evangelicals. Like, this is the way,
Yeah. There was that guy who was praised by Patton Oswalt, who was saying, another guy who's literally talking about how he was ashamed of his gay son and he didn't know what to do, but then he realized, it's all right, it's a girl.
But he always talked about how all the crisis, but it was like the kid wasn't in distress. He was in distress.
Yes. He was in distress. Yes.
He was in distress, and then he saw his distress by deciding that the kid was really the opposite sex. And it was like, dude, you do not realize the child was fine the whole time. This is just you freaking out because your child is happily playing with pink toys. The kid is just a kid playing with toys,
I saw a thing, we're going over an hour, so that's kind of but I saw an interview with a young girl who was wearing a binder, right? And she wanted to be a boy, and the reason she wanted to be a boy is because she wants to play football, right? As if you couldn't do that if you're a girl. But she was wearing a binder, and they said, "How are you getting on with the binder?" Because this was BBC, and they're promoting binders because that's the BBC at the moment. And the girl says, "Well, it's a little hard because it's kind of constricting my breathing, so it makes it a little bit more difficult to play football." And as someone said, if your daughter wants to play football, you get her a pair of football boots. You don't get her a fucking binder.
Yeah, no, I think that's an excellent
point. Do we get you run shoes, or do we conceal your breasts with a dangerous implement? Like,
it's mind blowing. I mean,
oh Christ, how did we get here? How are we here? This is astonishing, isn't it?
It really is
astonishing. Backwards sort of turn that's been taken in the last 10 years in terms of acceptance of people for who they are. It's just incredible.
And it goes to show how people just aren't thinking this through. They learned that you're supposed to accept gays by rote, but they didn't deeply understand that this is about truly understanding that gender nonconformity isn't a problem.
Yeah.
There's just like they did not deeply get the issue. They only superficially did, and now it's haunting us.
Yes. It's a very kind of and because it's so extreme, and because it's this leads us into a whole other area that we must that I'm sure we've spoken about before. But again, it's the era of hot takes. The hotter the take, the further it travels, the more likes it gets. And so people are saying the craziest shit just to like someone said the other day, it's okay to transition for frivolous reasons. So what the fuck are you talking about? These are very dangerous children.
And you know what? I do think that sometimes the idea of transition has simply become that I honestly believe that half of what that person is saying is that it's okay to dress how you like, to try on some things, like people used to do in the 80s, where you'd be like, I'm going to spike my hair up.
Exactly.
And I'm just going to put on, black lipstick. And it's okay to say, am I going to be a goth? Am I going to be a new romantic? And I genuinely think part of what they're saying is this, but obviously then it gets conflated with the whole transition. Again, it's a sort of Mott and Bailey argument where you can just say, no, you expect anyone to just play with their gender, meaning wear what you like and sort of call yourself what you want. But then, there's also the childhood transition, there's puberty blockers, there's surgery, there's, these two things are different. And a lot of people are pretending that what GC people are against is people just, pushing the boundaries of what men and women are allowed to express themselves as, which is, of course, completely the opposite. The opposite.
This is why I love pointing out that so many of the new romantics and the new waivers are on our side. You know, Marilyn, who literally calls himself Marilyn, but calls himself Mr. Marilyn. Boy George, boy. You know, what's his name from Soft Cell? I think Mark Allman. I think he's tiptoed into this.
Alison Moyet.
Alison Moyet is deeply outspoken. You know, the guy who created, this isn't a new waiver or a new romantic, but or a goth, the guy who created Rocky Horror Picture Show, you know,
he's
a movie about transvestite, the sweet transvestite from transsexual Transylvania. Were we supposed to take that as a woman when we were watching that movie? Were we supposed to say that's a female? You know, no, we weren't. We recognized that this is about gender bending, it's about kink, it's about fun. And that's fun and harmless, you know. That was the point of the fucking movie. So all these people are on our side, you know.
Yeah. No, it's an extraordinary. I mean, every single new romantic who had a kind of effeminate looks
Fionn says Bowie knew the difference exactly. Bowie,
yes,
they all know
the difference.
Yeah, it's a kind of I don't know. It's almost like an attempt to turn all those people into a conformist group. You know, it's like there's an interesting. Someone told me that I think it might have been. Oh, I can't remember who told me, but someone told me that kids at the moment, they think everyone like Boy George and all these people, they think they were trans. They say, oh, they're trans. No, they're not.
Of course you would.
He was called Boy George. I mean, he wasn't Girl George.
No, of course it would be. You know, we've had the transing of historical figures, haven't we? Of course.
The Guardian one, the fucking Viking woman that was non-binary. I mean, can you believe that even got published? I mean, it's
honestly no. No. No.
Yes, Grace Jones. There's a great example. Grace Jones. You know, the brilliant thing, like, one of the things about
God, she was cool.
Yeah,
so cool.
One of the things about
fucking cool. She's so cool.
One of the things about pop music, right, was that it's people all through every major pop kind of explosion. It's people who almost feel like they're from a different planet. Happened with Bowie, happened with Elvis. These people felt like they had been just kind of gifted to us from the stars, you know. And then you had kids who wanted to join in that kind of celestial magic, right? So they dressed up as Bowie, you know, and they took on some of that magic. But the thing about, and I think the exact same thing is playing out here, but the heroes, the people up there are just terrible. There's no one with any talent. There's no one with any charisma. You know, and so instead of that kind of joyful celebration of your own personality, what you have is that awful picture of those three girls with the cuts on their arms, sitting down beside each other, miserable, because there's no music to listen to. There's just speeches by adult babies. You know, it's really a depressing time to feel. You know. Yes. Hey, maybe we should leave it at that. We're running on a bit, and
yes. Okay.
Is there anything to wrap up before we go, Helen? Is there any? What should we look out for this week, do you think?
I don't know. I guess, I mean, you know, every week is a surprise, isn't it? There's always something. You know, I'm sure something will happen tomorrow, and we'll be like, I can't believe this is happening.
Every day.
I know. I was thinking we might have to make this a morning show and just be on every morning, you know.
It's already a morning show for me.
Do cooking tips, you know. Yeah, or well, what I mean is just a regular show, you know.
Like every morning, like, you know.
You can tell us how to cook breakfast, Artie, and I'll tell everyone how to cook dinner. I didn't want to say that about you, Helen, because then that would be gender.
No, I'll just drink. I'll just drink some wine.
Helen could do cocktails. Listen, everyone, lovely to have you all. I think the big thing is going to be Scottish schools, because I think that's going to wake a lot of people up in Scotland, and people are going to realise that that's what they're proposing down here.
What else is going to come up this week? Can we talk about, before we go, what we think is going to be the big news this week?
Oh, I will say there is a thing I'd love to put in the link. This woman Heather a while ago asked me if I would promote an action that she's taking against Twitter that's trying to bring attention to the thousands of women who've been banned from there. And it'd be nice if we could put her crowdfunder in the comments, because I found out that she actually did it because she was listening to me, and she said, and because I said someone like, why doesn't someone ban Twitter? And I had no idea that she did it because of me, and it just got disappeared in all my emails, and I forgot to promote it. So it's only got a week left, and it needs to make £3,000. So please have a look and help that one out. Artie, was there something you were going to bring attention to as well?
No, that's too much. All I want to say is, all this talk about the new romantics, that's what everyone should do today, is put on some Japan or some, good old 80s music, and think about the fabulous gender benders who made the world wonderful.
And I would like to say, on behalf of the straight contingent, that Guided by Voices have a new album coming out soon, and their recent albums have been spectacular. So, yes,
they must have so many. That's a catalog I can't even get into. Oh my god!
Literally, you go to bed and you wake up and there's a new album. It's unbelievable. But the thing is, the quality is so high. It's the last 3 albums, amazing. They're all amazing. So yeah. So anyway. Thank you very much, everyone. Lovely to see you.
Yep.
Amazing commenters today.
Yes, thank you.
Wonderful to see you, Fionn.
Yes,
Dennis.
thank you for joining us. Thank you for making time to join us.
Adrian,
on Saturday.
too. Yeah.
I'm getting a bit better at bringing them up. I'll try and do that and be a better moderator next time, so we get fewer trolls.
Rebecca Van Tassel's in today, too. Yay.
All right, everyone. Bye-bye. See you on Wednesday. Bye.